Hey, welcome everybody. This is Ask an Agent Anything, where we work on building the rainbow bridge between being an agent and an investor with all the different things that are out there to help you get to closing. My name is Corianne. I am licensed here in the state of Colorado. I'm also an investor and a wholesaler, and I love land deals. So if you need me, you can always find me on IG at Corianne Wright, but I'm here with my fabulous co-host, and you probably already recognize we've got an extra special guest, but I will let Renee introduce him. Renee, how are you doing today?
I'm excellent. How can it be bad? It's summertime, man. It's so good. I love it.
It's true.
So I'm just trying to stay cool because it's a blazer, as I like to say out there. So I'm inside. I feel blessed. And let's have a moment of silence for whomever created air conditioning. That's all I want to tell you. Whoever that is. I got a Wikipedia, whoever created air conditioning. Anyway, thanks you everybody for being here. Most of you know me as well. My name is Renee. I like to go by Renee in LA. You're SoCal gal. So I cover all of the great state of California, which is kind of popular for investors. If you're in the know, you know, but I know across the country, it's not always the most popular. So it's okay. I'm here to help you. That's why we have this show, because Kevin Choe is our guest today. And I'm basically just going to hand the mic to Kevin because I think he can just practically run this whole show himself. But
I
Kevin, introduce yourself.
Hello guys, my name is Kevin Choe, and I love what you guys are doing with this podcast because you guys are connecting the bridge with investors and agents. And funny story is like I'm from SoCal as well. I'm from Irvine, and I actually passed my license like real estate salesperson exam back in 2020, and I have a picture of it. And I didn't even know what to do with it. I didn't even hang it with a broker because as soon as I get my license, I get all these letters from these brokers saying, "Hey, join my brokerage, or join this brokerage." And then I'm like, I ran into like real estate investing, and I'm like, oh, that sounds way more interesting than being an agent. So I never even explored that side of things. But like, I mean, I've for the last 4 years that I've been in the business, like I really done a lot of business with realtors and just everyone in general,
Yeah.
which that's where my entire business is off of. But I love this podcast. So what are we doing today?
Corianne, tell us, because I know you have a better pitch than I do, and I'll probably chime in.
Okay. Well, today, fireside chat mode with everybody that's out there in the comments. If you do not know, Kevin Choe is like Sub2's baby brother. I believe that's an official term term out there. And honestly, like that's probably the most disguised, confusing way to get to an exit strategy, and seems to be one that is like only growing in its need out there in the world. So we really want to pick your brain, kind of just talk about those methods and those closings, because a lot of agents hear that and the first thing they're going to say is that's a scam. And so we
Right.
want to that's really the bridge that we want to cross today is, what is the trepidation that people are running across? How are you breaking those objections? And where are you seeing this method of closing being helpful to people out there?
Yeah. Are you specifically talking about like doing sub two and seller finance deals?
Yes, absolutely.
Let's start
Yeah.
there. Yeah.
Yeah. So it's funny because when I build my entire business around doing deals with the real estate agents, and not specifically real estate agents, but like deals that are on the market where there is a listing agent involved. It's so important that the real estate agent, the listing agent, knows like what creative finance actually means, right? Like there's a couple ways for you to go about it. You have to know like, okay, sub two, like what the heck is sub two? Like, okay, you're taking over a mortgage payment and you're not paying off that loan. So there's some risks involved in that. And then seller finance, I feel like most agents understand seller finance. It's like the homeowner owns it free and clear, and they finance and the homeowner finances the entire transaction with the down payment, interest rate, and everything's negotiable. But back in 2023, beginning of 2023, I came across this deal where the homeowner, like a local agent, sends me the deal, and local investor and agent, she sends me the deal. Her name is Diana Hernandez. She goes, "Hey, I came across I have an agent in my brokerage where she came across a friend where she cannot sell this house because she just bought the house." And she was like, I feel like you might be able to help them out. So I got introduced to Seth and Ashley. They were the sellers of the house, And at that, when I got introduced to them, they were going through a divorce. And so, and it was like a 30-minute conversation, but just to make it short, Seth works in the military in Yuma, Arizona, and Ashley was a full-time stay-at-home mom, but they were going through divorce. So they put the house up on the market that they were living in, because Seth was going to stay in Yuma, and then Ashley was going to move back to New York, where she's from. And and I told him, like, why do you have this house on for sale by owner? Like, do you not have a real estate agent? Like, do you need me to find you a real estate agent? And they said, well, we cannot afford a real estate agent. And as I
Mm.
dug more into it, they bought the house 3 months ago with a VA loan that they and they when they bought it, they put no money down. And as soon as they bought it, they locked in like a 3.9% or something, sub 4% interest rate. As soon as they bought it, the rates literally doubled in the span of like 3 months, right? So now the buyers can, there are less buyers that can afford houses at that price point. So they are basically underwater, and they said, well, I can't afford a listing agent, so we're going to try to sell this house, because if I put this house up on the market with a listing agent, I'm going to come out of pocket like $12,000. So I'm like, okay, well, that's so interesting, because like there are so many homeowners that are I imagine there are so many homeowners that are in that similar spot where they bought it recently, but then when the market tanked by 10-15%, they can't and they put themselves in a position, like family, health issues, whatever, they have to exit out of the house. There's no way for them to sell the house traditionally, unless they have money sitting on the side where they can just shell out. So that's when I proposed to them and said, hey, you know what? Instead of you losing money, I'll close on this deal in the next 30 days. I'll give you $2,500 each. So Ashley gets $2,500, Seth gets $2,500, and I'll take over your 3.9% interest rate. And my payment that I took over was like 1520. And then
Mm.
that house on 1180 South 9th Avenue, that house was rented out for like 1950 right now as we speak. So like
Awesome.
we raised the rents a couple times, but but then that's when like my business mode came in, and I said, okay, I'm gonna figure out a way to find more people like this, people that are
Mm.
underwater, because if they have to sell the house and they don't have any more money, there are only a few ways. You let the house go to foreclosure, you short sell it, or you do a sub two where the buyer comes in, takes over the payment. So that's kind of how the sub two stuff came about. And I feel like ever since I started doing that, and a lot of people have been implementing this strategy in their business, and like a lot of agents are. I mean, you guys, do you guys get sub two offers on your listings, or like any of that, or
Not
Not
here.
very often,
Yeah.
but I definitely like run into situations where those are the only offers that can get you even close to the kinds of numbers that sellers are asking. And generally, I put in a cash offer first, and then I turn more towards the creative options, and I pass to somebody in the sub two community.
right,
But that seems to be what's growing, is that people that bought in 2022, 2023, the very beginning of 2023, have the kinds of interest rates and bought too high, and that seems to be the only way to sell. Is that
right.
is that correct, or what are you kind of seeing in terms of like the types of houses to buy?
Yeah, that's kind of what we're seeing is, especially for the last 18 months that I've been kind of implementing this strategy. Like I've done 150 plus deals just the last 18 months, just straight up going after homeowners that are on the market, that are underwater, right? So like most people don't
Uh-huh.
know this, but like let's just say, like, Renee, like you put up a house for, I mean, LA is different animal than like here in Phoenix, but here in Phoenix, let's just say a house is 400,000. I can go on the public record and I can see how much is left on the mortgage, right? So if it's a $400,000 house, but they owe like 375, I imagine the homeowner's
Mhm.
not making any money on that deal. If they
Mhm.
got a full price offer. So that's when I reach out to the listing agent and say, hey, looks like the homeowner is maybe underwater. They're maybe tight on their equity. Would they be open to just me coming in and taking over those payments? And then most of the time they say no, but then as months go by and the homeowner does just making mortgage payments, they're like, yeah, whatever it takes for me to get my commission. That's usually the agents, like most of the agents are like that. Like they just they more care about their commissions first, but then and then the homeowner is like, I just don't want to make this payments anymore. and then I'll come in and take over the payments, or I have somebody else like friend of mine like pays will just come in and take over those payments, and obviously I
Gotcha.
get like if I'm sending that if Pace ends up buying the deal, then I'll get like a little bit of referral fee.
Mm-hmm.
Nice.
That, okay, we got to roll it back, because even the numbers that you're talking about having purchased within the last few months, I mean, astronomical and amazing. Can we roll it back all the way to the beginning? You said you got your license in 2020. What got you into real estate in the first place, and how did you find Pace?
Yeah,
I need
so
timeline.
yeah, so 2019 is when I graduated high school. All right, so y'all do the math. I don't know. So 2019 I graduated, and I'm going to this community college, and I don't want to be there, and I'm thinking about anything else I could do but this. Like, this community college thing is stupid. I didn't feel special there. Everybody was doing the same thing. I'm like, how can I make how could I do something that's totally different, right? So that's when I kind of got myself into like personal development and starting your own business, because I've always enjoyed like looking at real estate. So a funny story is, when I was in 5th grade, I'll sign up for this broker's listing email subscriptions, and every night I'd have my iPad, and like I would just look at, and I'll get like 4 emails from her every single day, and I just look at every single house that she would send me, and I'm like, oh, this is a really nice house. Oh, it's only and this is back in Southern California, so like, oh, this is only $750,000 house, and this is 5th grade Kevin Choe.
That's amazing.
Oh, this is
Amazing.
3-bedroom, 2-bath for only $625,000. This is a really good deal. I should go buy this deal. And I did that for 2 years. And
Wow.
I loved real estate. I just, every single second of it, I'm like, I love looking at houses, and I'm like, let's give this a try. And then my dad was also in real estate at that time. I didn't grow up with my dad. He was doing fix and flips in Korea, so he kind of gave me a little bit of opener in terms of like what I want to do. And he was like, you should at least give it a try, But he didn't think that I was going to drop out in college and then give it a try. Now there was miscommunication there, and then
Yeah.
so I get my license, obviously, because that's the first thing that most people want to do is like, I mean, that's how people get started, right? Like, what else would you do? Get my
Right.
license. I passed in the first round. I'm like, oh, this is gonna be easy peasy lemon squeezy. And then I'm watching all these real estate videos, and then I run into what's his name, Max Maxwell and Kong, and and they're like, oh, make 10 grand a month just flipping paper. I'm like, oh wow, what does that even mean? And then I'll binge watch his contents for literally like 6, 7, 8 hours a day, and I'm like, okay, so you go after a whole ugly houses, and you look at, and you get them under contract, and you sell the paper, and you make fee, and that's what really interested me. So that's when I'm like, okay, I'm gonna ditch this thing, and then go full time into the investing. But funny story is Kong, that I bought his first course from back in 2020. I bought his first course and first script, and I get connected with Kong through another friend of mine, and I'm now going to be coaching in his coaching creative financing in his mentorship. This was
That's amazing.
Yeah, so it was like someone that I started that got me into real estate, and I'm going to be his coach in his mentorship. I'm super grateful. But that's how I got into the investing side, and then like, okay, I'm gonna go wholesale, and then like as my feed, all my YouTube feeds are all about real estate, my Facebook ad pops up, and it's like, oh my gosh, like look at like I bought this house with no money down. And I'm like, what? This is like funnel after funnel after funnel. Like, okay, I want to get I want to get into Instagram. I mean, no, sorry, I wanted to get into real estate, and then I get into wholesaling, and then like Pace pops up out of nowhere and say, buy this house with no money down, 0% interest rate. I'm like, oh my gosh, what am I getting myself into? So now, that's how I got introduced to Pace, and that was December 24, Christmas Eve on 2020, and I've been with him ever since.
Wow.
I
That's
love that
amazing.
story. I've never heard that Kevin Choe story. So, you heard it here.
Oh yeah,
I love an origin story.
An origin story.
that's my favorite story, because I'm now like doing things for Kong, who literally got me into real estate. So for me to be on the same room with him, it's like such an honor, truly.
Mm.
So
That's amazing.
yeah.
I feel a little twinge of that. I get to co-host with Jamil on Straight Outta Compton, and same feeling. I have one photo of the first time we met, and I gave him a painting, and it's of us exchanging it, and it was sort of kind of like the beginning, restarting into what it meant for me to get into real estate. And now I get to sit with him twice a week, so it's like
Oh,
there's always a place to go, you know.
that's what got you into real estate. Straight Outta Compton.
No, Straight Outta Compton didn't, but Jamil got me into actually doing deals. In 2019 is when I kind of caught wind of real estate, and I was teaching art, and I had a gallery in downtown Denver, and that was sort of my world. But I wanted to have more money. I wanted ways of like connecting with people and doing the same thing that I was doing, but hopefully making more money. And so I went to a real estate conference, went down a path of like the slimiest version of wholesalers, unfortunately, for about a year, which did not like fit at all with my vibes. And so I was just kind of warring with it, got my license, did my first flip, was just trying and spinning like most new people do. And Jamil was the one that caught me and was like, no, this is a mindset issue. You think you're supposed to be a starving artist. Let's pivot that and move it forward.
Nice.
I love it. Yeah. You look back and you're like, oh, I actually like you manifest things that you didn't even realize.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So,
I'm now more in a position that's perfect for me than I ever could have been. And I think that's like, I get to see other people have that same come up. And it's just, that's why I love our community.
yeah.
What do you got, Renee?
What do I got? I don't know. Are you asking my origin story? 1875.
That's true.
I'll start there because I'm clearly older than the two of y'all put together. Oh my God. Well, I got into real estate because I was very clear I was going to go back to either get my PhD in psychology or I was going to remain in sales. I've always been entrepreneurial. I've always I was a kid with lemonade stand. I mean, when I was like 8 or 10 years old, I went door knocking. I lived in a condominium complex and I had little tasters of these muffins that I was making. I mean, you got to get, this was the 80s. And I don't think anybody's parent would let them do this today. By myself, went door knocking, had tasters, took orders, came back, baked it, wrapped them, delivered them. And I think in a matter of a month, I think I made like $3,000 or $4,000 in early days as a young kid. So I was always been a hustler. I've also had a record store and a coffee shop. That was in my 20s. And then I was realizing I needed to make a change. You know, I wanted to make a change. And so I decided to get my real estate license, but I chose it for the right reasons. I really like the psychology of sales. So other than just like the hustle and the money, I got into it because I really like to take group A and group B and put them together. And so that's what I do. I consider myself more of a matchmaker. And in 2000, I got my license in 2005. In 2007, the market shifted. It was dramatic and quick. And I needed to do something, or I probably would have been out of the business like many people were in a shifting market. So I started doing REOs and short sales. That's all I did for almost the entire market, which was a very long market. And I got to work with a lot of investors because most of those properties were dilapidated. And I just really like that avatar of person. So I primarily worked with investors, even though I did traditional retail, I did investors mostly all this time. And then when I, like you, Kevin, you know, I saw Jamil and it made a little more sense for me to go with Jamil with the agent conversation. But I joined the Astro Flipping community because there's not too many agents who are like myself or Corianne, as Pace would say, the unicorn agent. There's not too many of us out there. So I wanted to go find people within the community. So 19 years later, I came on my 19th year, July 5th, if you can believe that. And so I have a lot to unwind and I also have a lot to contribute because I've been at this for a minute and I have some bad habits or habits that are just grooved. And so I love having you on here because as an agent or as even a seasoned agent, the broker, I've been in several different brokers. I've been at Compass, KW, Prudential, a couple of, what do you call them? Like boutique brokerages that are just in the LA area. I've done a high end, I've done low end. I've done $7, $8, $10 million. I've done 300,000. I don't care. You know, I just like do deals. I like doing deals, but I realized that not one broker had a conversation on basically how to retire out of real estate. And I just thought, well, this is a sham and a tragedy. And so when I got, faster than when I got into astro flipping, but when I got into astro flipping and Corianne and I got together on this conversation, it's really my commitment to give back, to agents, especially with another shifting market and all the NAR stuff that's happening, to make sure that the fellow agent has options and alternatives, because I'm telling you that the brokers probably don't care. They're just like, oh, well, out goes more people. We'll have more people come in, but they're not really setting you up for success and a retirement or financial freedom within real estate. You have to learn that on your own. So with that, you're what, 23, 24 years old, 25 years old. I mean, probably by the time you're 30, you're going to be financially free, and you didn't even have to go to a brokerage. So that's where, at least, that's my long story, but at least as a younger person, to also anybody who's any age, that's the brilliance of real estate. You can be any age. There's people that are in their 80s that are still selling because they want to. They have a referral basis and they want to. And even them, I talk to them often, and they don't really know what they know what the definition of seller financing is. They don't really know what sub 2 is. They think it's a scam. And, with people that are locked in with these low interest rates, and maybe they have to sell because now the baby boomer generation is transitioning. They're going into independent living. They're going into assisted living. This is a really prime time in real estate to actually have this conversation. Now, you asked me earlier, am I having a lot of sub 2 conversation? I'm not. So I'd love to speak to maybe some of the bigger markets and the higher end prices. So for that listening audience, and also what I get more of is seller financing. I do get tired landlords, people who are, baby boomers, and they just want to let their stuff go, and what the pros and cons of that are. I know what kind of that answer is, but share with us, share the audience what that would look like if we brought you into a mix. Corey and I called you up and you were our business partner because we referred you. What does that actually look like so the agent isn't scared?
Yeah. So first things first is like, they have to, the answer will always be no if the agent does not understand how the transactions work, how the processes work, right? Like, confused mind always says no. So for me, you have to be able to explain things in a way that anybody can understand it, right? So seller finance, I feel like most agents understand it, but like in a simpler term, I just ask, hey, like, I try to explain it in a different format where, hey, I had a seller, he wanted to sell his house for 300,000, but the offers that we were getting was 270, 275, and he just turned every single one of them down. But because he really wanted to sell for 300, he offered financing for the buyers. So therefore more buyers were able to, there were more buyers that wanted to buy the house. But in a sense, it's like you're just making, instead of you collecting all the money up front, you just collect payments, right? And how does that benefit the seller? It benefits the seller because, number one, they don't have to pay the capital gains tax in a way that, if they were to fully cash out, they will have, unless they roll into something else, they will have a hefty capital gains tax depending on the state. Number two is they will make way more money at 300,000, right? So like, let's just say you sell it for 4%, 5% interest rate, and you have a 10-year balloon. Over the course of that 10 years, the seller will probably make close to $400,000 to $415,000, right? Versus if they were to sell it outright today, they get the money, they'll probably walk away with close to 280, right? So like, you take, do you want 280 right now, or do you want $415,000 in 10 years, right? So like, there's that $140,000 more that the homeowner can make. And number two is, and the third step is like, how are they protected? Well, let's just say a buyer comes in and buys a house on seller finance. They typically have a down payment that they have to make, right? So they have skin in the game, and if for whatever reason they default, the seller / the lender can foreclose on the house and take that house back and get another set of down payment from another buyer. So in actuality, sometimes we have homeowners that wants the buyers to default so that they can take the house back and do it all over again, right? And as soon as I say that story, like, all the agents all of a sudden understand what seller finance is. It's like, oh, this is how it benefits the sellers, and but ultimately at the end of the day, it's like the seller's decisions. But that's how I explain what seller finance is, and I have still, and after that, I don't really have any objections that people ask me. It's like, I feel like it kind of covers the entire conversation, especially if it's an agent that's been in the business for a little bit more than like a couple of years.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah.
Are you getting,
especially in seller financing?
Well, seller financing, I'm sorry, Corey, I was going to say, do you get more of an objection with sub 2 because now you're actually taking over payment from the bank?
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, lot of the objections we get are all within like 5 to 7 objections. Like we there are no more than 10 objections that that gets come across. It's like usually, okay, what happens to due on sale clause? What happens if the buyer doesn't pay? How do we get the house back? What happens if you don't make the mortgage payment? How do you know if the mortgage payment has been made on time? How do you you know, I mean, what else? Um, what happens if you get the house
I mean,
back? I mean, there's like only a few that we run into all the time.
Do they say, who are you? Like you're kind of this random person calling. Maybe the agent knows you, but in all full truth, it's like, wait, who are you? And how are you not going to default? Is that an objection?
Honestly, not really. Too many people surprised. It's really not a like we had. I think I when I was actively doing it, like in the business, like actively cold calling. I think I had 1 or 2 times where the homeowner or the real estate agent would ask for proof of funds, making sure we have money to pay the mortgage. At least they said at least 12 months of mortgage payment. So that was like,
mm,
like what is it, like $30,000 or something. But that's as far as we've gone. But most of the time, the homeowners are just so in pain where they're like,
Mm.
like it's like they can't even sell the house. They can't like it's not like they can't even take a low cash offer. Like they can't even afford to sell the house. So
mm,
we have a lot of I've run into a lot of homeowners that do not want to do sub two, but they end up doing sub two with me.
mm. Yeah,
Are you
because they're in that situation.
Well, they're in that situation. And I wonder, Kevin, like maybe if not yourself within the sub two community, are people doing at a steady clip what would be considered more of a high end house, whatever the market is? I mean, it's all relative, right? So I know you were joking and saying $700,000, in SoCal, but that's relativity. But is there sort of a threshold where you're not seeing people do sub two or seller financing? I'm almost asking that question for myself because I do work the greater California market. Does one stay within entry level price points, or where's a sweet spot? If it was, and this is not maybe an agent question, but if you were going to do some prospecting.
Yeah. Usually higher you go up in price, the homeowners are a little bit more open to doing it.
Interesting. Okay.
Yeah, because because they actually understand it, right? So I always have hard time, and I mean it's not a lot harder, but anytime I work with a seller under like $250,000 house or condo here in Phoenix, I usually I have to have way more conversations with them just for them to make them feel comfortable. But then like my
Mm,
house, for example, I bought my personal house for like 650,000, and $650,000 here in Phoenix is it's not it's not a cheap house. Like you think like New York or Cali, like 650,000 is like a little 2 bedroom townhouse,
Mhm.
right? But my house is 4 bedroom, 2 bath, 2,100 square feet with pool, everything in Airbnb included, like all the furnitures. It was an old Airbnb. I literally
mm,
had one conversation with the seller, and she was like, "Yeah, let's do it."
Amazing. So it almost sounds like it's an
amazing.
investor mentality of sorts. So not just because somebody has money are they going to understand it. I know there's a little bit of a correlate there, but that if somebody is open to an investor mentality or maybe has owned other investment properties themselves, because I've noticed that, it's like the agent is the one that's the gatekeeper to the contacting the seller. But I'm saying this on behalf of all agents is just listen to, myself or Corianne or a Kevin who's calling, and so just being open to what this alternative option might be. Because the truth is that a lot of sellers who have at least one or two other investment opportunities, maybe they don't have even a whole portfolio, do understand it and they're open to it. So don't be so apt to like shut it all down,
Oh
Or
yeah, I mean, I've done 90 sub two deals in 2023,
wow.
and that means 90 different agents with 90 different sellers, and I don't really do a lot of like no agents send me like I don't do 10 different deals with one agent, but like I have because they have good experiences with me, like agents will send me, hey, like what do you think about this deal? What do you think about that deal? And now they're all completely full on sub two. Like some of them actually even joined sub two because we done deals together. Right. Like I have this girl named Victoria, like we did a hybrid, like we did a sub two and seller finance deal together in North Carolina. And now she's a sub two student. And it's interesting because now because she was so against it when I first had a conversation with her. She said my client will never do this. in like in Southern accent. Not, I will never do this. And I said, all right, that's fine. But then like now she's in step two, like doing deals with me. She's like, she texts me all the time, like, hey, what do you think about this deal? What do you think about that deal?
Amazing.
But you know what I love about that experience? It's not even a comment, but that experience is that this is basically what the show is about, not joining sub two. And by the way, sub two is short for subject to a loan in place, right? So if you don't have a free and clear property and you have a mortgage in place, you're taking over those payments subject to the mortgage. So that when we keep saying sub two, that's actually what it is. And then there's also a community called sub two. And so that's what, Kevin is talking about. But this is what's brilliant. And this is what, Corianne and I are hoping is that people that do land on this show is that they just keep their ears open, particularly if they happen to be agents. And this is another way to make money. And here's this girl was so emphatic, like, no, I'm sure she thought it was a scam or whatever other negative connotation. And now she's a student calling you. I mean, how cool is that? And it's brought her another line of income, and it's allowing her to serve more people, because that's really kind of what it's about, right? The reciprocation. She gets to make more money. She gets to solve more problems. And at the end of the day, that's really what an agent is a problem solver, and it's unfortunate that I think the average agent only closes about 4 deals a year. That's according to the National Association of Realtors. And it's a tough gig. It's not for everybody. It's a tough gig. And here's an alternative, to a supplementation or an alternative. That's
4 deals a year is pretty generous considering like that's the average, right? Like so some agents don't even do a deal.
Yeah. And who knows what that means? That's everybody lumped together. You could be a property manager. You could be on your way to retirement and you don't care. You're not in build mode. You're not in hustle mode. So the bell curve is a little skewed, and it also is only for the people that send back the form, because they send it out to us every year. So who knows, you know what I mean? Like it could just be the people that are only in that department, and all the people who are busy have no time to fill out the form. I don't know, but that's been pretty consistent over the last couple of decades. So it says a lot. And I think it's only going to maybe get worse, because a lot of people are probably going to leave the industry given this National Association of Realtors decision. That's sometime in the mid-August is when it's all going to change. So you got to.
I mean, I have every single time I do a deal with real estate agents, especially if it's an on-market deal, I've never had a real estate agent not get their full commission.
Amazing.
It's like they always got 2.5% or 3%, whatever the listing agreement
and
says.
Say more about that. Like go back to kindergarten explanation of what that is. Like we don't know anything about sub two. We're listening to this guy, Kevin, and I'm still stuck on how am I going to get paid? Okay, I hear what Kevin's saying, but how am I going to get paid? What does that actually look like?
Yeah, so let's just say let's go back to that deal in Yuma, for example. One of my few first sub two deals that I've done. The homeowner was not able to afford the listing agent. But if there was a listing agent involved in that deal that was selling the house, I would go up to the listing agent and say, hey, let's say Renee is a listing agent. Renee, hey, looks like your homeowner is underwater, and I do my whole pitch, and the homeowner says yes to it. Ashley's getting $2,500. Seth is getting $2,500. So like sellers are getting $5,000 all in. And for you, Renee, you will get your 3% commission. In this case, you'll be close to like $7,000. Mm-hmm. So $7,000 you would get, $5,000 a seller would get, so $12,000, and then I have to pay the closing costs, because I always pay the closing costs. So and then the money that I pay you, Renee, $7,000, the $5,000 to the sellers, it comes out of my my personal pocket. So no, whether the house gets sold traditionally or or creatively, like subject to, everybody, you still get your full commission.
And I don't even think you have to to the agents, because they're just like I said, they're all stuck on getting paid. So whether if the audience is listening, if somebody has that listing and there's nothing wrong with it, they're just not interested in having this being a part of their business. They just know that this might be an alternative. That at the end of the day, you will get your full commission, whatever is offered in the MLS.
Right. And once you sell a real estate agent on something, like you usually sell the seller, like they will sell the seller for you. Mm-hmm. Because most of the sellers that we work with, they're like first-time home buyers, right? Like I loved going after VA loans and FHA loans, like brand new VA loans and FHA loans, because they usually put no money down, like 0% with VA loan, 3.5% with FHA, sometimes 5% down with conventional loans. So when you go after low down payment loan products and they have to sell within the 24 months mark, they usually basically owe what the house is worth. So those are good candidates that I used to go after.
Corianne, you had a
Love
question?
that. I have so many questions. I always do. The one I want to kind of focus on for many of our audience, they might be coming from the Astro side, or they might be a realtor that's looking to actually understand this, because we talk about it all the time, is that most realtors are showing up to a seller with a paintbrush and only a paintbrush. Hey, fix this and I can list it for this. And oftentimes the I can list it for this numbers aren't even the right numbers. But that's what they're kind of out there doing. And look at the rap they're getting. Even in this conversation, we've talked about how, well, most realtors, they just want their money. They're not really thinking about the seller. So for our audience, who are those kinds of agents who are like, you know what, I want to bring more to the table. And they're looking at kind of walking down this path of let's get into the serious tools that I would need for it. I see many of them look into the sub-2 closet, if you will, and then spin for about 6 months in regards to all the different things that you could do and pace knows and etc. So when they come to the table, where should they start? Will you set them on the right path, please, Kevin?
So it depends on what you want to start with, right? Because not everybody starts at the home base. Some people start at the first base, second base, whatever, depending on what cards you play with. I have helped people in all sorts of stages in their career where, I mean, I had people, last 2 weeks ago, I had 12-year-olds flying to town to spend field days with me, and they cold call together. The advice that I'll give to them is give to a 12-year-old is very different than someone that's 45 that has $250,000 sitting aside, right? So like for me, for everyone that's watching this, this is a general advice. That does not mean this is what you should be doing. Like this is a general advice. So like if you're like just getting started and you're 18, 19, 20, I'll probably go work for somebody that's already doing it, like someone that's already established, like myself. Say, hey, I would love to make calls for you, or I'll do anything for free just in exchange for knowledge, right? That's what because you want to get, number one, you want to get the repetitions, and number two, you want to know like how to actually make the calls, right? Because once sales is a skill, Renee, like you've been in sales for your whole life, like that sales skill that you get, you always carry it into your every single day, whether you're selling something or whether you're just having a conversation with someone at the coffee shop. Like everybody needs to learn sales so that they can get so that you get them out of the way and you can just carry that skills with you. But if you're 45, 55, 65, 75, and you're retired and you have a lot of money on the side, that is not the advice I'll give you. I think if you got money on the side, like you should just be working with people that are actively doing deals like me and say, hey, Kevin, if you find me a 3% interest rate deal, I will pay you money. I mean, speaking of, I just got a deal right here, 135. This was 3 minutes ago, where this was a foreclosure deal. My team calls on no equity deals and foreclosure homeowners, and like this homeowner is like 4 months behind, and she's like, I don't have any money to make any payments, so we're just catching up the payments and we're going to take over the payments. This is like 3 minutes ago. Like as I'm actively doing deals, you should be coming to me and say, hey, Kevin, what deals do you have? Do you have any do you have any deals that my team that I can buy? Like this deal in Odessa, Texas, 1413 East Century Avenue in Odessa, Texas. This house is a 3.9% interest rate. The payment is $1,500, right? So like that, if you're in your later in your career, if you're in your latter end of your career and you have money, then you should not be cold calling. You're just buying one house a month, kind of, and that's it. So that's kind of my advice. You can take it if for people that are like interested, but like that's just what I would start with.
I love that, because both directions that you start with, you're starting with getting to know people and talking to them, which is sales.
Exactly. Sales.
Speaking of, Kevin, can we go back to like the Wayback Machine? If you're willing to answer this question, it might be a secret sauce. So you said that you're not actively cold calling anymore. Is it like Americans? I hate to say it like that, or people that you just know, or do you have like a gang of VAs? Like, how are you running your ship? How are you actually creating that business?
I'm usually not involved in any of the day-to-day stuff. Like on my computer, I bought this computer like 4 months ago so I can post more content, and I haven't downloaded Slack. Like I'm I'm involved in my wholesale business probably 30 minutes a day. Like I just got off the phone call with my partner Lorraine, and she just updates me on anything urgent that I need to get a hold of. But in terms of what my team looks like is I have one American, right, acquisition manager, and he works with all the people that come to me and say, hey Kevin, can you help me out with this deal? I'll refer them over to Ryan, and then Ryan will help them out, and then also Ryan will go and find his own deals, right? Like I have a software called LOI Blaster where we send out like a letter of intent, like preliminary offer about step 2 on all the nationwide no equity deals. And then, as they come back, he will hop on a phone call with them, and he will get them under contract. So it's my team is very, very small. I have my partner, one acquisitions manager Ryan, and then I have one partner who we sell all our deals to. She sells all the deals. Like she's a matchmaker with the buyers and the people that send us deals. Just one matchmaker and one acquisition manager who talks to all the people, and I just oversee the entire operation.
Is it really your business, or is she directly your partner, like a 50-50 split? Or is she just, you're saying partner as semantics, or how is it structured?
Not LLC partners, but more of a I get 50% of the deal and she gets 50% of the deal.
Okay.
And if my acquisitions manager Ryan is involved, then he will get a percentage depending on his involvement.
Okay, that's fair. Thank you for that. I mean, it sounds standard, right? But that's great. And here's what my takeaway is, because this is where I'm shifting things, is, I could kind of get away with being a little bit of a lone wolf, especially in the like SoCal market. Things are expensive here. People don't always necessarily do volume, et cetera, et cetera. But I have a different outlook for how I'm going to create my business, doing the business this way. And one of the things that is just, it's impossible, is doing it by yourself, or at least that's how I'm treating it. I don't mean to be dramatic, but I am looking for talent to onboard. And I like what you're doing, is that it's just this like high and tight team. You don't need 50 people in a room. You don't need to pay all this retail. It's just, a good amount of talent that's on board in your culture. And it sounds like you're the kind of the ringleader of, creating the brand, right? Like, so people get to know who Kevin Choe is, so that the deals are coming in, and then you have help behind the scenes to make sure that they get implemented.
Yeah. You get to a point where hiring more people, it doesn't really grow your business. And personally for me, like, I don't really want to grow a big real estate operation. I more care about, like, okay, if I can just buy one house a month consistently, that's all I really care about. So for me, that's just a personal decision that I made. Is like, I do one deal a week very consistently, no problem. I mean, I did 90 deals last year, and I feel like that was a little bit too much. So I'm gonna scale it back down. Where I'm gonna save. I'm not gonna do 90 deals. I'm probably do like 50 to 60 deals this year, and I'll be happy, and I can focus that time into something else.
Wow. And so you're just sending out a letter. You're actually sending a physical letter of intent. Is that what you're doing? Or you're sending an email or a text? Email. How are you getting in front of the letter, an actual letter?
Yeah. No, like email.
Wow. So you're getting all these people's email address as well, these homeowners?
Yeah. So we export it on Monday.
Yeah.
And then we just send it out that day. And as agents email back, we schedule a call, and then we hop on the call.
Agents. I'm so sorry. Okay. So you're not doing anything direct, or at least very little to no direct to seller. You're sending a letter of intent. So this is not a bad idea, guys, who are agents, to do it even for expireds. If you can't get the expired person's contact information, the homeowner's information, you can still go back and go on, maybe on holds or expireds, and do the same thing, right? I mean, would that be something as well?
Yeah. I mean, we went after expireds, but I kind of enjoy going directly to the agents, because they usually pick up their phone more than the sellers.
Yeah. Interesting. So you're sending a letter of intent, a physical or an email letter of intent to the real estate agent, on market, active, that is not moving, and potentially something that is expired, or you just know on the expireds.
Exactly. Yes.
Wow. That's so simple. Anyway, Corianne, please. I'm like sitting in it. It's so simple.
I love that, because I also am a little bit more simple nowadays in comparison to running a very large team. I just realized it's more life-giving to be a little bit closer to the deals and closer to my team. But I find that most people need that. They just need to be reminded to go simple in the business. And that leads me to the question, of what's next then for you. If you are only focused on that, I'm sure you're not the kind of person who's like, I'm just going to catch up on Netflix for months and months on end. What are you excited about? What are you focused on?
So I'm making shifts in my business, and I don't really haven't really talked about this too much, but I'm making shifts in my business where I'm doing a lot of sub two deals, right? Like, I mean, with the resume that I have, I can, you know, I feel like I wholesale more sub two deals than anybody that I know of, outside of Pace,
Nice.
of course. But I'm like, the challenge with sub two deals is how many houses does that homeowner have after you buy that existing house? Like 99% of the time, like it's none, right? Like
Right.
I've never done a second deal with a seller of a house where I've done a sub two deals with. But I'm looking to switch my business over to doing more seller finance transactions, so that like when if they already have a house that they seller finance, most likely if they're looking to retire and offload their portfolio, and you're making the, you know, payments on time, I have a shot at buying the entire portfolio from that seller.
Yeah,
So
you
one
do.
seller can be equal however many deals, and that's what I
Mm.
want to go. I want to go after higher leverage opportunities instead of one deal, one seller, one agent, one, you know, like chasing the deal after deal after deal. I'd much rather just focus on, you know, 10 different sellers that have 10 different houses each, and if I really treat that relationship right, I can probably buy 100 houses within the next 24 or 36 months, just with 10 sellers. So
Mm.
that's where I want to go. That's where I want to go, you know?
Yeah, that's
That's such
amazing. And I think many people are not willing to take on that many properties in one chunk. Like it's nerve wracking. Many people don't know what to do with that. So having somebody like you who's willing to take a look at many, and that's kind of your method, is exciting.
Yeah. So going after homeowners, my strategy is going after homeowners that already sold seller finance their house. So like
Mm,
when I was looking after seller
smart.
finance, I used to just go after homeowners that had 10 plus different houses, but that didn't really pan out too well, just because
Hmm.
how do you know if they are open to seller finance? You know, like they might have 10 different houses, but they might just want cash out, who knows? But then I realized that every seller finance transaction is a public record. So I'll just
Mm,
go to Maricopa County and say, look at all the houses that were sold in seller finance, find that homeowner and say, hey, you seller finance this house 3 years ago. Do you have anything else you want to do? And that's
mm.
model.
that is so
Ooh,
the
you are real creative.
I know, right? Because I feel
So
like everybody's doing wholesaling these days. So it's getting a little convoluted and the messaging is a little too much, especially for the agents. I'm on the other side of it, right? I get dinged and pinged all day long. Renee, help me find my place. Renee, what do you have? You know, and it's like, that's not, you know, really creative, so to speak, right? So here you're offering something that's actually a real solution and a conversation starter. Like, hey, you know, you want to let your stuff go?
I want to show you something. So,
Mm,
so this is a closing documents here and a half. This is 702 West Pepper Place. This is a seller finance deal that I bought, right? Um,
mm,
and I closed it a few months ago. And while I was signing my paperwork with the escrow officer, I come across this paperwork, and I asked her what it was because it was so interesting. So there's this every single time I don't know about any other states. I can only speak on Arizona, but in Arizona, when you close on a transaction, this is a paperwork that you have to that you will have to check off. It's called affidavit of property value, and it shows you like the address, how much the purchase price is, and what address, how much you're putting down, and all that stuff. But if you go
mm.
to this section right here, this is a seller carryback right here.
Oh, yeah.
So
Mm,
this
mhm.
is what gets recorded on the county records, and most of the time it's going to be like VA, FHA, conventional, because most people that's how most transactions are happening. Sometimes if you're doing hard money, it will be cash, but seller loan will be a public record. So I went back to every single houses that were sold in the last 10 years here in Maricopa County, and I look at which one of them were sold on seller finance, and um, I went back and found them, and
Lightning
I
bolt moment.
and I think the seventh call that I made, I went under contract to buy a seller finance deal. It was a little condo. It wasn't the best deal, but it was really eye opening to see like, okay, this is working, you know.
Yeah.
Uh, and the best part about it is the homeowner has done it, right? So they're like 10% down, 5% interest rate, 10-year balloon, 40-year term. I'm like, all right, let's do the deal.
That
So
is great. So you're not even fighting uphill, so to speak, loosely said, with the agents, right? It's like how many few, I can't speak English today, how few velvet ropes do you have to get past? So this is another way to go direct to seller that isn't really pinging on them. It's already an elevated conversation that they're aware of that's still kind of underground. I mean, I know you're doing this all day long, right? But the agents aren't pitching it. Most other investors are probably not pitching it. I think they're a bit more like wholesalers or flippers, like, hey, do you want to buy your house for cheap? I'll buy everything in it. You don't have to do anything, walk out the front door. That's the pitch, right? But you're not saying that. You're saying like, hey, I guess, are you just tired of owning this property and let's do the deal? I mean, it's just brilliant. It's already, the conversation's already kind of done for you. It's an unspoken. They've already done a seller financing deal. So I just think it's the great unknown to a lot of people within real estate. It's still kind of, I mean, PACE really brought it to the forefront, but it's still kind of the great unknown for the most part. I mean, believe me, talking to other agents, they if they've heard of it, they shut it down, or it's just not talked about a lot. It's still kind of like old boys club a little bit, some handshaking in the back room, or maybe an REI event or RA, event or whatever. Like people just don't really proactively have these kind of conversations that I'm seeing outside of the sub-2 community.
yeah. I mean, you look at like the industry average, right? Like imagine like like Renee and Corianne, like you're not in real estate and you see somebody that has 20 houses. You'd be like, you have 20 houses? Holy moly. Like what do you do? But like, if you really look at it, like this is the way this is the way I do my grow math, right? Is if one homeowner that's selling their houses on seller finance and their entire portfolio is 7 houses that they're looking to sell on seller finance, over the course of a lifetime, you just need to have 3 sellers that would trust you enough to sell their entire portfolio. and that could be your retirement plan, right? Like Renee, you talked about it earlier. Like most brokers don't talk about retirement. It's like you leave and you fill it back up with somebody else.
Yep.
So it was really eye-opening that that's like, imagine you just have 10 sellers a year that you work with and you compound that over and over again. Like you have more opportunities than you can handle.
And speaking of, I know we're about to wrap this up, but go ahead, Corianne. I got one more question. Burn him, but go.
I do too. Well, first I want to let everybody know in the chat, like this window is closing. If you have a burning question for Kevin, please drop it in the comments. And then I'm going to jump to, honestly, this gem I see that is flowing out of you, Kevin, it seems to come so naturally, is that you're always thinking about like, who is the client in this situation? Like, who am I trying to go after? And then you're turning your voice in their direction before you're even talking to them. Like you seem to have kind of that marketing sales standpoint of like, who am I going after? How am I going to benefit? And then talking in that way. And I think anybody can do that. It doesn't mean seller financing. It doesn't mean sub-2. It doesn't mean wholesaling, but just knowing, hey, like, look at this opportunity on how I can go find this specific type of client is so valuable. And people don't take the time to think through that.
Yeah.
So good.
What's your burning cue, Renee?
I think mine is PML, which is private money lending. So as we kind of take this home, Kevin, what I heard you say is, are you looking for private money lending, or you're saying, hey, I've got, $50,000, $75,000, $100,000+ just hanging out. I'd like to make more money than the bank, et cetera. I'm going to call up Kevin. Are you looking for that type of conversation for more money?
I'm not actively lending out money for long term. I do take on private money lenders for my project. So like I'll borrow money from people, not the other way around. I don't really lend out my money because I can turn around a lot quicker than 12% in a year, So
So not you, lender, but are you looking for lenders to call you? Like if I had $100,000 and I wanted to make a return on my money, but I don't want to do all this other stuff you're talking about. I don't want to call the people. I don't want to send the LOIs. I just want to make money on my money. Can someone not reach out to you?
Yes, 100%.
Okay, good.
I mean, my lenders get I spoil my lenders at this point. It's like, I sat down with my CFO last week, and she said I spent $29,000 just on flights and hotels and food for my private money lenders, because every single time my private money lenders, lend me money, I want to give them good experience. So I fly them to Phoenix. I get a rental car, I get my videographer, and I just show them around the project. And so yeah. But to answer your question, yes, I'm always taking on more lenders.
Okay. Well, it's 5 o'clock somewhere in Arizona, according to Kevin. So it's party time somewhere.
Yeah.
I'm going to make sure that the people that I know that got a couple of deep pockets are just excited. They maybe want to learn on your coattails, even if they don't want to get in the trenches, and be excited about actually lending you money. Honestly, I think being the bank is probably one of the best directions to go in when people can get there. It's not usually where they start out in their career, but as you were saying, maybe a little bit older in age because you just had more time on the planet, more time to make money, etc. And you're like, hey, what's going on? I want to help, and I want to make some money along the way. So private money and being the bank, I think, is the way to go. That's another one that doesn't get talked about enough. So maybe, Kevin, you'll come back and we'll have a round 2 with you.
I'll have a round 2 with you, and I will bring all my private money lenders, because I want them to know how has Kevin helped you in their business, right? Like, I don't just take their money and pay them. I literally just walk them through some of my transactions and making sure that they get the help that they need, as long as I have the know-how and things like that. I don't ever just take their money and say, all right, 12%, all right, bye, talk to you in 2 years.
Yeah, that's brilliant. Oh, that's so good, Kevin. And that's good to know. I'm glad you said that. That not only gives it some realism, but also some authenticity and truism of who you are and how you're operating in the world. And in a sector, the investor side of the business doesn't always get the best rap. Investors, when you say the word investor, it is the glass is less empty, than it is full. So, people kind of like, oh, who's going to take my money? It's like it's immediate stiff arming. So to hear somebody as young as you are, and also just taking that on as a service, it really says a lot about who you are. So I just wanted to commend you for that. So thanks for doing better and being better within the industry.
Of course.
This has been so much fun. I got to see you get auctioned off by Pace at community camp last year for a date, and I didn't win it, but this feels like I got at least a little bit of the great Kevin show. And honestly, you do amazing work in this industry, and it's just great to know you. We want to give you the stage on our way out, and anything that you might need, or the people that you are putting feelers out there to catch, if you'll just give them a shout out and let them know where to find you.
Yeah, my Instagram is Kevin Choe 12, as you can see on the handle, and if you guys want to go check out my YouTube, I spend a lot of time and money and energy into YouTube. So if you guys ever want to check out some of my seller calls, agent calls, I underwrite deals there, and I give away lists for free on my YouTube. I take out my private money lenders. I have some vlogs that people love watching. I spend a lot of time and energy into it, and it's literally documents. I just document what I already do what I'm already doing in my business. So if you guys want to go watch it, you don't need to subscribe if you don't feel like you don't want to, but at least go check it out. I feel like it's kind of worth taking a look at.
Subscribe, as the kids say, smash the subscribe button.
Smash the subscribe button.
Smash the subscribe button.
Absolutely.
Oh my God, Kevin, thank you from the bottom of my heart. I am not, I've been in this business for a minute, but I am always learning. And I just want to say that I'm not too shy to say that. And I learn every day, and this business will give back to you as much as you give to the business. So keep going. You're an extraordinary young man. I look forward to connecting with you even more offline. And thank you for just being a part of the show. You've helped move the needle forward. Corianne, take us out.
All right, y'all. You'll find us every Tuesday at 2 Mountain Standard Time, 1 PST. We can't wait to see you next week. We're always bringing amazing people like Kevin by. Make sure you go follow him and smash the subscribe to send him a thank you from us, y'all. And we'll see you next week.
Bye, everyone. Be well.